Greetings, Tav. I hope you're well, and I've got to apologise for the absence of the last month. I know I've not been putting out the content at the usual rate. Well, I say usual rate, it's been 0, and there's a reason for this. I've been working on a very kind of like top secret big project within the Puretide program, and it's going to change the landscape in terms of how you access information in your games and also at tournaments. So we did a call last night for the Puretide program community, and it was revealing the big faction focus database. So I basically, in short, done SWOT analysis. So the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for every single faction in the game. And this is using a very, very clever little application within the Discord that you can just have all this information available to you at the click of a button. So if you are interested in getting on board and seeing what this fantastic tool can do for you, make sure you click on the description in the link below and sign up to the Puretide program. Now, it is only available for paid subscribers, but this doesn't have to be expensive. It's from the lowest tier, which is the beginner one called Pathfinder, and Shas'ui and Shas'ui. So even if you sign up on the Pathfinder level, you will get access to this amazing tool. So without further ado, let's get into some of the spicy information that we're all here for. We've recently had the Balance Dataslate. Now, we've had some really positive treatment from GW. So we've had a couple of changes that I'm going to go through on this call. For those of you who are not aware already, and you should be by now. And I'm also going to do a refresh of each of our detachments and giving you a list to help prepare you for the upcoming meta, because I think there's going to be a little bit of a shift and people are able to relax, knowing that some of the big threats that we're all fearful of, aka Knights with their new release, and this meta that has been going on for the last 3 months, which has been Death Guard Knights, Chaos Knights, Death Guard Knights, Chaos Knights. And we've had some evolution within this meta that I think is going to continue in the next 3 months, but also you're going to have some lists that are more focused on, should we say, the opposite of a stack check, high toughness, big models. It's going to be horde meta. So I think we need to prepare for this within our lists. And obviously the objective for me is to give you a foundation for each of the detachments with a list that can not only tackle the big things in 40k, like big knights and tanks, but also tackle multi-units of like infantry. So without further ado, let's quickly go into the data slate changes, and then we'll go straight into a list that I've constructed for the Kauyon Detachment. Okay, so when you look at the points, we've had a couple of reductions in small places, and one of them is quite surprising. So our broadsides have received points deductions even for single broadsides. So I kind of expected a little bit of a workaround with the 3 model broadside unit, because previously the 300 points, now they've been reduced by 30 points. So they're 270 points for 3 broadside models. And then our 2-mans were 180 and our singles were 90. So we've had a 10-point deduction on a single broadside, meaning it's now 80 points, and we've had a 10-point deduction on a unit 2, which is 170. So it can open up some really interesting lists where you can have single broadsides with the rails, seeker, ignoring mods, and the missile drones, just to kind of help assist a kill rather than having to take a big unit to go and kill something in its entirety. And for that, you'd probably need a 2-man or a 3-man unit. So I really like this change, and I think it's a welcome change. Then we've had some reductions on our battle suits, and none other than the Commander Farsight himself, the amazing model, he's been reduced by 10 points. So he's now 85 points, whereas previously he was 95. Then we move on to our crisis teams. Now, I'm a big believer in crisis teams. I think they're fantastic. They offer you a lot of flexibility, and their data sheets giving different roles are amazing for kind of utilizing these units versus current threats. So to give you an example, fire knives have gone down. Now they've gone down by 10 points. Fire knives are great because you can equip them with all missiles or all plasma. Now plasma is very good at dealing with your elite units, so like Terminators, 3-wound models, 2+ saves, that kind of thing, because they rock in AP 3 and flat 3 damage. And the other variant is really good at clearing Horde, because you can take missile pods, and they are 30-inch range, AP 1, damage 2, strength 7. So these profiles are great, and I think we're going to see a little bit more of a shift into the missile fire knives, especially in certain detachments like Montcalm, which I'll get onto in a later video around the Montcalm detachment. But I genuinely think if you're looking for a cheap package that will give you quantity to deal with hordes, and the fire knives can give you that answer. And then if you're still struggling with elite units like Terminators, then the Plasma variant for 120 points is a very good package. Because remember, the key thing about fire knives is they ignore modifiers to hit. So we're going to see like Raven Guard coming out the woodworks with their stealth if you're targeting them from, I think it's over 18 inches away or 12 inches away. And also then anything with stealth anyway, like Admech, can get a whole army effectively having stealth. So Fire Knives being great at ignoring those hit modifiers. And on top of that, they get full rerolls to hit when targeting a unit that's at full starting strength, and then reroll ones innately if they're below starting strength. So this is a really good platform for 120 points. So a 10-point deduction there, I'm liking it. It's going to pay dividends to lists that include crisis suits. And then finally, our Sunforge variant. So Sunforge have gone down by 10 points. I think that's just, I mean, originally they started at something like 180 or 170, so it's crazy to see they're now actually down to 140. But again, it's quite a good unit when you factor in the fact that they can have 5 wounds if you equip them with the shield drones. They have a 4+ invulnerable save, and they reroll wounds and damage versus monsters and vehicles. Obviously, the detachment that really favours Sunforge is Retaliation, which I will be going into on a separate detachment video. But I just generally think that this package of 140 is pretty good. And it contends with, say, like Sky Rays or Hammerheads and things like that. And it can be an option to be able to get up close and personal, because remember, Sunforge only have a limited range, aka 12, and then Melter is 6. But still, I think for a 140-point package, they can definitely do work. So I like this change. I think it brings it in line with other units that are similar points for a similar role. Firesight Team. Now, I've been pushing for a little bit of a change on this model because his rules aren't exactly great. But if you look at the core value of this particular model, it's a lone op character that can just guide. It's got a couple of sniper drones, might come in certain situations where it can like snipe a character, but realistically, it's not been taken for that role. Having a lone op for 60 points is super powerful anyway, period, in terms of this game. Having a lone operative to do secondaries, sit on primaries when your opponent can't reach you, super valuable for the general play of 40k as scoring points and not being interacted with by the enemy. But then having a guider that can also not be interacted with is really good value in all detachments, because this guiding unit you need to keep safe so that you can consistently keep giving your army that +1 ballistic skill, and because he's got a mark light, he'll be ignoring cover as well. So again, really good. So I think you're going to see a few more plays with the Firesight teams for a cheap lone op that can guide and get your army to be shooting at full efficiency. So then no other changes in terms of, there was no points increases, which is good to see. I was expecting some slight little bit of a tweaking around Rampages, not necessarily the 3 models, but I thought certain lists that were just rocking 6, 6, 6, and then 3 units of Crutox Riders might have seen a slight little bit of an increase on the maximum models, but it looks like for now that list has got away scot-free. So there's no negative changes to points, so I think that is pretty good for us. So we've had nothing but buffs in terms of points. We've had tweaks here, and I actually think it's done quite a lot for our list design. So then if we switch over to some actual rule changes. Now, one thing I want you to remember is that with Tau, I've been, pushing, and thanks to Josh Roberts, I've been sending little bits of information of things that I think need to be addressed with Tau. But do remember that they are limited in terms of how many changes they can make in one go. Now, you'll have seen with Admex, gone through multiple iterations of like an army rule and making them better. And I think Tau has been in that similar boat because they've been an early codex. So we've had changes to Riptides. So we've been asking for this for quite a while because our Ion Accelerator wasn't exactly what it said in the lore, and winning vehicles on 5s just felt wrong. So they've chosen to address this and give our Ion Accelerator the much needed boost in strength. So it used to be strength 7 and then strength 8 if you overcharge. Now it's been changed to strength 9 and strength 10 if you overcharge. Great change. I cannot stress enough how much this opens up our list building, because Riptides can now also deal with elites way more effectively, especially in elites that are toughness 5, and then also can deal with transports and be wounding toughness 10 vehicles like dreadnoughts and things like that, ballistic dreadnoughts on 4s. So I think this Riptide change is going to be really good for our lists, and it means that the Riptide role can now not just be taken just to be this 190 point durable unit that might spike, might not. You're going to have some efficient shooting coming from these platforms into targets that we would used to be wounding on 5s. So I like this, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so minimal changes, but have got a big impact on the way that we build lists. So let's have a look straight into list building. So give me a second while I change cameras. I just got rid of my face there. Just give me a second. Right, army lists. We got that. Web page. Okay. Give me a second while I flip to here. All right. So I've chosen Kauyon, and I think Kauyon's in a really good spot. So if you are playing on GW layouts, Kauyon is beautiful. It's been performing very well, especially in the hands of Glynacia. And I think GW terrain offers both melee armies and shooting armies a really nice battlefield to show skill expression and not be just, oh, there's too much terrain, I can't get my shooting off, or too little terrain means that my combat units are going to get shot. So I think the balance on GW is better. It's in a better spot than, say, UKTC, if I'm being completely honest. So I think that Kauyon naturally is going to be a really good detachment to focus on, not just as an experienced veteran player, but also as a newer player as well. The other thing to note as well, with challenger cards going, I think this opens up a hell of a lot with a lot of options within Tau, especially some of our more aggressive detachments like Montcar. And I think people are thinking Kauyon will be great with challenger cards because it favors the late game. But in reality, with the way that you should be playing the game anyway, I really didn't see the benefit of receiving loads of challenger cards as a Kauyon player, because I'm naturally quite aggressive anyway. So I know others share that same mentality in terms of with Kauyon, that I'd be lucky if I was getting like 3 or 6 points over a tournament, really. So I think this is going to be good for the general health of the game, challenger cards being gone, but I'm not going to focus too much on that. So let's get into the list that I've designed and why I've designed it. Now, with Kauyon, you have elite shooting. You will have the Riptides. You'll have a couple of tanks like Skyrays, Hammerheads, maybe some broadsides. And that's great. You need those pieces to be able to deal with enemy armor and the bigger targets like big demons, land raiders, all that kind of stuff. But I think what we're now coming out of is a meta that we've had to take a lot of these pieces because the knights have been around, and we've had to make sure that we've got enough anti-armor to deal with the current state of the meta. So if, for example, the meta wasn't changing in any way, shape, or form, then you would continue to do so, and you'd continue to do well. But if you do not adapt your list when it changes to more of a horde meta, or you're going to have a few armies, just to name a few, like Orcs, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, MSU, all these kind of armies that are out there, then you can come up to a battlefield and be like, I'm ready, I've actually not got the right profiles to deal with all of these bodies, and therefore you just get bodied, and you cannot chew through the amount of infantry that the opponent is putting in front of you. So with that in mind, I think with a couple of other changes like Orcs getting cheaper, you're going to have like Space Wolves rocking big units, same with like World Eaters, because World Eaters have had a massive buff as well. You need to factor this in, otherwise you just will straight up lose the game before you've even rolled dice. So with this in mind, I've changed my Kauyon list to factor in a couple of units that will give you an answer to Horde. Excuse me. So we start with Commander Shadowsun. Really good epic hero, reroll 1's aura, and also be able to use the Wall of Mirrors stratagem to go back into strategic reserve. Good late game play, and she's a lone up as well, so it's always good to have a lone up in your list. Then what I've done is I've taken the good old classic, a Cold Star commander with the exemplar of Kauyon, allowing me to do my Kauyon Detachment rule a turn earlier, so turn 2. And that will grant me ignore modifiers and sustained hits. Now, the ignore modifiers isn't going to really be relevant because I'm going to be equipping this commander with a finite battle suit team, but the exemplar of Kauyon being able to do it a turn earlier when maybe the enemy knows that they have to push you because your army kicks in with sustained on turn 3 onwards, you need a little bit of a counterpunch that early if your opponent realizes that the only chance that they've got of surviving is to push early. So I've got the 4 missile pods on this character and a marker drone shield drone. And I'll get on to why I've taken a marker drone now. I've taken a marker drone because it can use the coordinate to engage stratagem to be able to self-guide if, for example, you can't get a guiding unit into position. And then also it's just good to have a marker like there in case, for example, the commander's on his own and then wants to guide another unit. Battle line unit, so I want to take a unit of breaches for a little bit of mission play. And the breaches obviously can go, send forward, shoot something on objective, and also deny because they're high OC. Then we're going to go into the rest of the infantry. And I think the sweet spot here to give you advice would be to look at minimum 40 infantry, minimum. But I've been favouring going to the more 50 infantry lists because it just gives you extra tools to deal with incoming charges and you be able to what we call screen. So I've gone with 2 Crew Carnivore squads. You know by now they're great, sticky objectives, and they are your first to go out and do missions, secondary missions for you, whilst also screening important charges that you do not want connected with your more valuable assets. And then guiding is obviously really important because that's what our army lives and dies by. If we do not have enough guiders, then we're going to struggle to hit things. So 2 Pathfinder teams. One's going to have the recon drone for infiltration, and the other is going to have the grab inhibitor drone, allowing you to bestow a -2 to charge said unit. And remember, in Kauyon, you've got the stratagem photon grenades to be able to make an opponent -2 to charge as well. So effectively, you could set up 2 of these screens, one -2 to charge on, say, the right flank, and then -2 to charge on the left flank with either the stratagem or the unit with the grab inhibitor drone. So you can have it in 2 places at once, which is really, really good. And do remember that Kroot have grenades keyword, and then the only stipulation photon grenades is that you have to have the grenade keyword. So all of your infantry can say to your opponent, no, I'm going to make your charge harder. And I think that's very powerful and will aid you in this combat meta that's about to hit us. So obviously guiding, we were going to put in 2 units of stealth suits there. You know why they're valuable. Reroll 1s to hit, 1s to wound. Free rapid ingress, which also works quite nicely with the crisis team. And then on top of that, you could use the Wall of Mirror stratagem to go back into strat reserve. Then in terms of the meat and the vehicle side of our list, now I've gone with the finite team, as I mentioned, and I've gone with missile pods rather than plasmas. The reason I've gone missile pods is because I said at the beginning, we need to tackle Horde. Now, I know obviously armies that have armor contempt can really hurt our AP because our missiles are only AP1, and we're going to be using this unit early. So you're not really going to be using it turn 3 to do things like the extra AP when you're within 9. But to be honest with you, just having this unit to be able to say to your opponent, like 10B Snagger Boys or whatever they are, your strength 7, so you'll be running on 3s. Your AP1, but orcs are going to be doing a 5 or pin bun and a 2 damage. So that 2 damage profile is going to be great. I really do think we're going to have an orc war horde on our way in the meta. So this unit's going to be perfect. Got a Ghost Kill. I do like Ghost Kills in Kauyon, being able to redeploy it through Wall of Mirrors and just be annoying and sit there. And then you have 2 lone ops in your list, Shadow Song being 1, Ghost Kill being the 2nd. And we're just giving him the Twin Fusion and the Cyclic Iron Raker. So really good distraction card effects to get your opponent to overcommit. And then obviously we're going to have Triptide. It's eternal for a reason. And now with the added strength to the gun, I think it's going to be great. And then you've got 3 of these in this list with missile drones, Iron Accelerator, and the smart missiles. And then you've got the 2 Sky Rays. Now, I've chosen to remove the Hammerhead, and I was deliberating whether I do an Iron Hammerhead, Railgun Hammerhead, just for that kind of quantity. But I think with the fact that the Riptides now have gone up to strength 10, you can afford to drop 1 other dedicated anti-tank piece. So the decision between taking Sky Rays over hammerheads was simply because they have the mark like keyword. They can work in conjunction with other units, aka using the coordinate to engage. So you could have a Riptide out and a Skyray out. You don't have to reveal stealth suits or Pathfinders, and you can then go, I'll spend the stratagem, so my Skyray's getting the benefit, and the Riptide's getting the benefit of the +1 ballistic skill, and they're both ignoring cover. So Skyrays are really nice because when it gets into turn 3, they ignore modifiers, so effectively turn into hammerheads, because hammerheads get +1 to hit versus vehicles and monsters, whereas Skyrays don't. They get full rerolls to hit versus versus fly keyword. But when you're ignoring modifiers and you'll be hitting on 3s with a free reroll built in, and then maybe reroll 1s from Shadow Sun, it becomes very efficient. And then their guns are twin linked. So I think this combination here is why I've chosen Skyrays over Hammerheads. And then finally, I've gone with a Devilfish with the 2 Seeker missiles and the Smart Missile systems. Now, what you could do here is if you wanted a little bit of extra DACA to deal with like Horde, you could easily change the Smart Missile systems on the Skyrays to long barrel burst cannons. I don't hate this, but I do think when you start to add up the indirect fire of the Devilfish, the 2 Skyrays, the Riptides, this can help plink away at some, small scoring pieces, and it'll help you into things like Eldar, Drukhari, because they've got a new codex, but it'll be coming out soon. So I do think this is something that is kind of preemptively take smart missiles, but I can see an argument for taking the long barrel burst cannons. So this list comes to 2,000 points, and it's a nice staple. It's got a little bit of everything. Yes, it's not taking like single piranhas or the 2 units of Krutox riders, but I think that the more infantry is key here. Because if you take a list that's just got all elite killing and you go against like 120 orc boys, you're going to basically end up being stuck and just not being able to deal with the list. And just to kind of showcase something off right now, is that if you go to, let me just get rid of my army list. So just to show you a few things, so in our Pathfinder section, so again, click on the link below in the description and you can find a link there to sign up to the Pathfinder. And we have detachment discussions going on. So we've recreated this to make it a little bit easier. So it's not just one list discussion that basically just is very difficult to find stuff. We've got almost like a forum on here. So you click on Kauyon, for example, and it'll take you straight to our Kauyon discussions that we're having. And we've been discussing like which way to push Kauyon and what would be the most optimal choices for this upcoming meta. So if you want to be a part of that, I'll give an example here. So something which an early iteration a couple of days ago was like Shadow Sun, Cold Star with plasmas, Exemplar Kauyon, Enforcer with missiles, 2 finite teams, 1 plasma, 1 missiles, 20 Pathfinders, 10 crew, a Devilfish, 2 units of 3 stealth, 2 single piranhas, 3 Riptides, 1 rail, 1 hammerhead, 1 railgun hammerhead, and 1 Skyray. And then we're basically just discussing this. And then also, if you wanted to go into other discussions with the Mont card, Retaliation, you can just click on the button. It takes you straight to that channel. So it's absolutely fantastic and it's super smooth. So the other thing that was discussed last night, which was obviously the faction focus call that happened for everyone to showcase what we've been working on. Me and Black Goodbye have done a lot of work with this. So essentially, let me just dismiss this message, so I'll start from the beginning. So when you go onto this faction focus section, as you can see here, you'll be given a drop-down menu. And on this drop-down menu, you choose the faction. So I know I've talked about it a lot, but let's click on Orcs. So you click on Orcs, and what it then does is it generates you the SWOT analysis that I've created. So it gives you a little bit of the lore, a little bit of a greeting from myself, and then it goes into the strengths of this detachment. So to give you an example, you're going to have strong board control due to the high amount of units, speed, and combat threat range, and the ability to overload you with many units, which will disrupt your guiding and your firepower allocation. And then obviously I go into a little bit of things like, they have sticky objectives with battle line, the boys, and cheap Gretchen screens that generate CP on a 4+ when they're on objectives. So it gives you a couple of insights in terms of the top strengths of the army. And then it goes into some of the weaknesses. So I discuss things like, okay, so Outside of Commandos and Boss Snickrot, they do not have strong infiltration presence, which means this is a part of the game that we can utilize to disrupt their battle plans. Now, I know obviously Commandos had a slight buff because they can now split into 2 5-mans, which does alleviate one of these weaknesses, but it's still not quite as good as us. We've got Pathfinders, we've got stealth suits, we've got crew Farstalkers, we then have loads of scout moves. So essentially, we need to control that part of the game because it goes in our favor and goes into some of our strengths and plays into highlighting their weaknesses. And they do have a consistently predictable battle plan, and it's easy to work around and control, providing that you anticipate where they want to be and setting up screens and move blocks ready for the war. And that is a key part of playing orcs. And then I talk about the opportunities. So the key thing is here, you do not want them to be faster than you. So removing their transports as early as possible in preparation for the war to make them slower and easier to screen. Having long range to take out their mid-range shooting that they have from tank busters and flash kits and things like that. Hence why when I was talking about putting in the missile firehouse, you can play that range game with them and threaten. Then if they come out and deal with the screen, aka some crew, they're then going to be exposed and out in the open, which means if you've got long range, you can stay out of their combat threat range whilst also killing them with superior firepower. And then I go into some of the threats, so like I said, Commandos, I've mentioned one. So Commandos is an infiltrating unit. You cannot fire Overwatch at them, and this unit can be split into 2 5-mans in the battlefield formation step. And then I go into giving you a few more examples of things that you need to look out for and the threats to our army. And then, nice and simple, you imagine you're going into orcs. Okay, I'm reading all this information in prep for it, but what's my basic battle plan? So I've given you a battle plan as part of this. So 1, remove their transports. 2, remove their faster units. Screen in preparation for the war. Accept that you will lose units and it is impossible to keep everything alive. So do not also run away from them, or they will control the tempo and board control. Force their war turns 2 to 3 at the latest. Play the late game. Montcar can force the war turn 1, but you still need to respect their output. So it's all about controlling that tempo of the game. And if you want to know a little bit more about their rules and their data sheets, you can click on the links below and it will take you to Wahapedia, which has nothing to do with what we're doing, but it gives you that access to that information online. So that is just one faction. And remember, if you like that, then just sign up to the Pathfinder. It's not a contract. It's a month-by-month rolling. You get many other benefits. You'll get access to my lists prior to me running events. You'll get access to an online library, which has hundreds of videos around deployments and also understanding how to play the detachments. It's great for newer players. It's great for existing Tau players as well, because you get my insights on the key things that matter. List building theory, deployment, and obviously now that I've added this faction focus, you're getting my 25 plus years of experience playing all these different armies and their archetypes, and you're getting it available to you at a click of a button. So like I said, this is an amazing tool, and you can only gain access to it if you sign up to the Pathfinder, which costs you, I think, because it's American, and when you sign up, it advertises £5, but there's VAT, so it works out about £6 a month. And it will give you access to this and much, much more. So please, if you're interested, check it out. And if you are on my Discord and you want any other questions, you can raise a ticket and talk to me directly, or you can DM me and ask for more information. I will gladly help you and take time out to discuss these options for you. There are other tiers, so other tiers gain you extra benefits. And if you go over to our subscription section, it gives you a rundown of each of those tiers there, and then gives you a option just to click on the relevant tier that you want to sign up on, and it takes you directly to the WOP page. Please make sure that when you do sign up to WOP, you link your Discord account and you claim your online content library. And it does send you an email after your purchase, but you can do that within your WOP account directly. And if you do get stuck, you can always talk to me directly or talk to the WOP support agents, and they will gladly help you get everything connected. So, going into the last part of this call is to talk to you about, let me just load up the web page again as well. Talk to you about a little bit about the meta currently as well. Just to finalize it, there are different, how do I explain this? Our detachments work differently depending on what terrain format you're playing on. So take Kauyon, for example. If you look at the stat check data, Kauyon's been doing very well in North America, which is predominantly played on GW terrain. But then if you look at, say, the UK data, which has been playing on UKTC, it shows a completely different story. So the performance of Kauyon is roughly like 34% on UKTC, whereas in GW it's been reaching like 53, 54, and now it's settling down to like 51. So that's a big delta difference in data. And that simply is the way that the terrain is positioned and constructed. So Kauyon, I'm going to tell you now, unfortunately for us UK players, it's not very feasible to play on. If you're wanting the best chances of having success, but also enjoying your games, I would not recommend Kauyon for UKTC, but I'll be doing a video on detachments that I would recommend, and it's the complete opposite from Kauyon. It's the Mont card detachment, and also Retaliation card, which you can have some great fun. I've got some spicy lists. And if you want to know more about the list that I've created, I've spent yesterday and today to add, I'm going to be adding a top tier, highly competitive list for every single detachment within my Discord. So you need to be on a Pathfinder level or above to have access to this. And I'm going to give you the most competitive version of a list that I would run at an event, say, tomorrow. And in terms of events, we've got some really big events coming up. We've got the London Grand Tournament. We've also got the LVO, which I'll be going to them both. And we've even got one that's happening over in Paris in France at the French Super Major, which I'll also be attending as well. So there's going to be some fantastic, creative, powerful lists coming from me. And if you want access to that, you know what to do. Links in the description below. So this list will give you everything you need. I will be putting this list in the description below. And I'd love to hear your comments. Are you enjoying Tau right now? Are you excited? Maybe are you disappointed with the slate? Maybe you thought that we needed a little bit more. I would just love to hear from you, the community, in the comments below, and I will take time out to respond to the comments as I always do. So I appreciate that I've been absent for a while, but there's a very good reason, as you can see by the hard work that me and Black Goodbye have done. I've showcased that with the faction focus and redesigning our Discord. And we've also got some other spicy things that we're going to be doing over the next couple of months. So it doesn't just stop here. We are constantly evolving and changing and giving you, the community, a fantastic resource and a place to just enjoy Warhammer 40k in general, and obviously have our little place for just Tau nerds to enjoy Tau talk and everything that comes with it. So for me, thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been really useful for you. Take care, and I cannot wait to give you the next episode. Thank you very much. Bye now.